Hi everyone, it's Carrie, aka Nerdygirlcreates. Welcome back to my channel. It's Manga Monday. It's time to talk manga. But first, before we get into that, do not forget to hit that like button, share, and please, if you haven't already subscribed, I want to say hi to all the new subscribers because we are now over 500. And for those of you who don't know much about me, allow me to introduce myself quickly. My name is Carrie, aka Nerdygirlcreates. I am a frustrated comic book fan who's been kind of like disenchanted with the way Marvel and DC have been handling their characters, so I've decided over this past year to venture into alternatives. I've gotten into indie comics, that's why I do reviews on Indie Friday, and I've gotten back into manga, something I used to read back in the early 2000s. And I wanted to spread that joy and show people there are other stuff out there for you to read. You don't have to, you know, just be stuck on DC and Marvel and kind of force yourself to like stuff that isn't been doing very well. There's a few glimmers of hope in there, but not much. So that's why I'm here. I want to bring the positives. So today we are going to talk manga. And last time I discussed about two series I first started off loving and then ended up hating. So today I wanted to do the opposite of that. I wanted to talk about two manga series I read that I was not a big fan of in the beginning. But luckily I continued on and discovered how much I really enjoyed it. Also, I want to remind everybody, stay tuned to the end of the video because if you're looking for deals on manga, I have a place for you. So stay tuned and please watch the end because it always helps the algorithm. Now, we're going to go into the first series. Now, the first series is going to be one you probably predicted because a lot of you who have been following me hear me talk about this series a lot. It's become one of my favorite series of all time. It's like probably number one for me. Um, but it's a series that like I knew about way back when it first premiered, but I wasn't into it because the Western marketing for it back in the late 90s, early 2000s kind of gave the wrong impression. And then there was an anime that when it was brought over here, they had it on a network channel that censored it to no end and the dubbing was horrible and it was kind of a turnoff. I saw it as nothing but like ugh. But I kept hearing people telling me you really need to read this series and you're going to find out exactly how great it is. So one of my first videos was actually me reviewing like the first part of the first arc and I did not like it. So what was that series? It was One Piece. Yeah, you see the poster behind me right there. I've got the One Piece stuff. You hear me talk about it all the time. I love it, but my first experience with it was not a positive one. My first review, I had read part of the East Blue arc, and I was just kind of like, I don't get it. I don't see what people like about it. Now, for those of you who don't know what One Piece is, I'll quickly explain. It is a manga series from Icho Oda. I probably butchered his first name, but I always just call him Oda. And it's about pirates, but to me, it's more about superheroes on the sea. It's about a boy named Luffy who was inspired to want to become a pirate because for him he saw this like romantic fantasy about living free and being able to do what you want while going on adventure. And his first meeting with a pirate was a very positive one, so that what painted his whole perspective of everything. So his goal is that he is going to leave his mundane life on this little island and go and become like the pirate king. He's going to find the mysterious One Piece treasure that Goldie Roger hid, and he's going to make him like the greatest pirate of all time. And he assembles this crew along the way, and everybody's got their own backstories. They got a lot of baggage, all of them, and they create this bond in this crew, and they come across some really bad stuff and some really great stuff. They make some friends, they make some enemies. It's pretty much what you would think about pirates, but there is a catch to this series. There's superpowers. And the main character, when he was a kid, accidentally ate this fruit known as the devil's fruit, and it gave him the power to stretch. Now, like Mr. Fantastic, he can stretch, but he learns to do much more with that ability, which makes it much more interesting as the series goes along. Some of his crewmates include Zoro, who is a samurai, a Ronin samurai who uses 3 katanas, and he's developed the 3 sword technique. And he becomes the first member of Luffy's crew. Then you have Nami, who's like the navigator, but she's got some history that's kind of like given her a negative view on pirates. And as it goes on, you meet more. There's Sanji, and then later a whole lot more. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read it. But yeah, the series kind of starts off, and when you look at the art, I think that's what's the biggest misleading thing about One Piece is the art. It looks very cartoony, and it's meant to be very cartoony because the world is very cartoony. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have a lot of serious elements to it. And the first part of it didn't really dive into that. You get introduced to Luffy, who's this kid living on this island, who's kind of sort of an orphan, but he's not. You know, he's got a grandfather out there somewhere, which you find out about later, and he's telling everybody in the village how he's going to be this pirate, and the mayor's trying to talk him out of it. The barkeeper, who he became really close friends with, she just kind of laughs at him, and she kind of encourages him because you should follow your dreams. So he takes off in this little boat with a barrel of food. He beats up a sea monster with his powers. And he stumbles across the first time this kid named Cody who's being held hostage by a very bad group of pirates. And Luffy comes off in the beginning very dopey, very like one dimensional to me. He's like, you don't get too many range emotions with Luffy. And I think that was the first thing that turned me off. Like, he was very, like, naive. And I get that being isolated in an island. But it's to the point where he sees stuff happening in front of him and he still kind of like just plays it off like as a normal thing. And then he'll act when it's time to act. But most of the time, you're just kind of like, Luffy? Really? And then he meets Zoro, who's this great pirate hunter. This is what he does. He goes around hunting pirates. And Luffy just decides, he sees this guy tied up and he decides, oh, you're going to be on my crew. And the pirate dude, Zoro's like, you're nuts. No, I'm not going with you. So he saves him and he displays his powers, and Zoro just goes ahead and goes with him. And I thought it was just kind of like, what did I say in my original video was kind of like, it just goes, it's almost like a video game. It goes from one place to another place, and he collects another crew member, and then he collects another crew member. And it didn't feel like it was going anywhere beyond that in the beginning. It wasn't until I got to Nami's story that you started to see what made One Piece great. Because here's this character, she hates pirates. She totally doesn't want anything to do with them. And she's a thief. And there's a reason. There's a reason she hates pirates. There's a reason she's a thief. And Luffy, despite looking like he's completely oblivious to what's going on, actually picks up that there's something more to Nami. And even when she betrays him and leaves, he sends Zoro to get her back. And Zoro's kind of surprised by this because Zoro didn't trust her when he met her. And he convinces him to go after her. And there, Zoro starts to discover exactly what's happening to Nami. And it's very, you get a very painful backstory, and you get this tragic like life you find out she's been leading. And instead of like being mad at her for betraying him, instead of you know questioning everything she's done, Luffy doesn't care. Luffy sees the good in her, and that's all he cares about. And you begin to see why he's a great character, because you think he's dumb. He's not. He sees things that other people don't see. He's got a unique perspective on everything, and a very great intuition about who's good and who's bad. So he takes Nami right in. And from there you start to get more character development, more they come up across things they're not prepared for. It's not your typical cartoon, okay, go into battle, then move on to the next battle. They go into battles, but they don't win every battle, or they end up creating a new situation that they didn't realize would be happening. And you see Luffy's development too, from this naive boy from the island who suddenly realizes himself that he isn't strong enough to protect the people he cares about. So he starts to grow and he starts to seek out ways to do this. There's tragedy along the way. I, again, don't want to spoil too much if you've not read it. It Great world building. I mean, if anything, Oda is excellent at fleshing out these worlds, these different islands they go to, these different characters, their culture, and everything. Um, there's a lot of conflict within every group, and nobody. I mean, you've got your few characters that are straight evil, but even in a group like the Marines, who are always hunting pirates, you have your Marines who are questioning the government and what they're doing and how they're handling it, but they want to maintain law and order, but they want to do it the right way. And then you have the other ones who blindly do what the government wants and don't question it because that's their job and that's how it has to be. And then there's like all these secrets that you stumble across and slowly begin to unravel as the series continues. And it's really, I tell you, I really started to read it when I was home. Thanks to the pandemic, I was home for 2 weeks, and I really like binge read it. Once I got to that Nami thing and went forward, I mean, every little point, I'm going to be honest with you, if you're going to read it, I know it's a lot, but it's worth the read. Every little point of this series, no matter where you are in the arc, is somehow going to pay off, if not immediately, down the line. So it's like there's little things that Oda has put in there that over time will play into something. Again, maybe immediately, sometimes 5 arcs away, but everything kind of ties in together, and there's like a mystery about like everyone, even Luffy. There's a mystery about like, his dad, his mom, like why did this fruit end up in his possession? There's a lot of things. Every character has still some mystery to them you want answers for, and Oda's really good at keeping you hooked. And it might have been like a slow start, but once he gets you into the rhythm of realizing how much more there is to this, you just want to keep going. And that's why I've changed my opinion on One Piece. That's why I'm now a big fan. Over there, you see the picture. I also love some of the supporting characters that come along, because supporting characters aren't just there in the background. They don't just come in and just play a part. They have their own story. Like, I don't know if you could see it. Law, he's on my door. He's like one of my favorite characters outside the main crew. He's a captain that Luffy ends up teaming up with. He's got probably one of the most interesting backstories in this. And it, you just like, you find yourself reading it once you start, and you're like, wow, okay, I get it now. I wish I started sooner. I wish I did invest the time back when it first came out. But I'm glad I have finally discovered it, and it is the first series that I originally didn't like and now love. And that would be One Piece. Yes, I know I've talked a lot about One Piece. I can go on forever about One Piece. Now the second series is also a very, very popular series, but it's the first part that probably is not as popular as, I would say, the second entry into this series. And when I started to read like the first 2 volumes of this, I was kind of like, eh. But I didn't want to make the same mistake I made with One Piece. I decided I was going to finish the whole first series just to see where it was going to go. And that series would be Dragon Ball. No, not Dragon Ball Z, the first Dragon Ball. That you get introduced to Goku and his whole merry bunch of friends and all the different characters that are going to play on later on when you get to Dragon Ball Z. Now Goku is a little kid, it starts off with, and he is living in the forest on his own. His grandfather raised him, and he's got a strange, how can I say this? He's got a monkey tail. Yeah. And when I saw this, I thought this was also going to be very cartoony, and, maybe I'm too old for it at this point. But, you meet some characters, Boma. I think I said it right. She is the really intelligent girl from a family of scientists who stumbles across Goku by mistake. She starts off very annoying. Like, she's your typical teenage, like, stereotype that they do in a lot of these series where she's like always talking down to the guy and telling them what they need to be doing, and she's always gushing over the really cute guy, and I hated her. I won't lie, the first few volumes I hated her. And Goku, I felt, was just kind of like, oh, this little kid who just could do everything and he never falls on his face because he's super strong and he knows how to fight. And no matter who he comes up across, he just knocks them the hell out. And it wasn't in a way like One Punch Man where he comes into town and he takes out the villain and goes, which was kind of like the humor about One Punch Man was that he could just walk in and knock you out and then that was it. He just needed one hit. That's why it's called One Punch Man. Goku, like, kind of comes in, you see this little kid, and he's beating up people triple his size, and you're just kind of like, I need a little more to this character. I'm not enjoying him. I don't like Buma. There's this other guy, I am totally blanking on his name. It's the one Buma has a crush on. He starts off wanting to hunt them, like, take them prisoner and rob them, and he ends up fighting Goku and getting his ass kicked, and he ends up joining. Then there's the pervy old man on the island. And there's, like, let me tell you, warning, despite what the art looks like, this is not for kids. Okay, if you're going to read the manga series, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the manga series that is not appropriate for kids, and most of it ties around the pervy old guy on the island. There's the girl with the bipolar, I forgot her name. She was kind of interesting, but it always seemed like when you needed her to go to the other personality, it never was at the right time. So yeah, it was kind of frustrating reading it the first couple of volumes. But then you start to get into where the stakes come in. Like, yeah, okay, he goes to his competition, he wins his competition, but here comes some bad guys who really have other ulterior motives. Um Goku realizes that he's not strong enough to fight them. He wants to protect everybody, he wants to collect all the Dragon Balls. He doesn't want the bad guys to get the Dragon Balls. He goes and he finds somebody all the way up on top of this, I'm not kidding, this pole to help him harness more of his power. There's a little bit of mystery about Goku's past, like, how's this kid and why has he got a monkey tail and something really weird happens to him on a certain time at night, that only, occurs every so often. Don't want to spoil it. So then some mystery starts to build, and then you kind of finally see some flaws in Goku, and you kind of realize this innocent kid is really getting his eyes open to what the world is really about. It's not all fun and games, and he starts to realize that, he's got to protect people he cares about, and he's finally got a group of people who care about him and don't care about the fact that he's different from other people. And during the series there's time jumps, so prepare for that. And during these time jumps, this is when you get more and more interesting stuff. Umra matures. She still doesn't stop with the whole nagging and stuff, but she kind of has to with the crew she's got around her. Yeah, she's got to be that voice of like, "Hello, wake up, do what you got to do this." But her intelligence also helps out the team. Everybody kind of plays their part in this group. I mean, Goku wins people over that start off as his competition or his villains. I mean, it gets really interesting. Do I think it's better than Dragon Ball Z, which I have been reading? I have the box set for Dragon Ball Z. No, I think Dragon Ball Z is definitely the better series, and I see why. But I think the first Dragon Ball is not as bad either. It's not really bad. You have to get past the first a couple of volumes. You got to understand that, yeah, you're dealing with a very like Luffy, almost like a very naive kid who's been living on his own in a forest, and the only other person he's ever known was his grandfather. And that he's got these mysterious abilities that are definitely beyond human. But over time, his development is great. And like I said, Dragon Ball Z is definitely the better of the series, but I think it's really important to read the first Dragon Ball series so you can kind of understand where Goku is coming from. And yeah. So yeah, I definitely recommend Dragon Ball and I recommend One Piece. So those are the two series that I originally did not like but ended up liking, surprising myself. Because I got one impression, and I think the biggest problem, like I was saying with the One Piece, is the art. You look at the art and you're thinking you're getting something very cartoony, especially when you've grown up in a Western culture with Western cartoons. Usually, when you see an art style like that, it's usually very how should I say this? Downplayed more for a certain level of ages. That's not an insult, but I mean, and when my first impression of the anime for One Piece was the crappy for kids thing on Fox that was just god awful, and that, to me, that was the impression of what the series was, but I think it was a very bad impression because it's not what the series is. Don't ever watch that version, okay? Go to Crunchyroll or Funimation or whoever still has it. Watch it there. Do not watch the fun. I don't even think you could find it anymore, but if you stumble across it, do not push play. I know I haven't really watched too many of the Dragon Ball animes. I'm gonna start. I know they're much older than I think the One Piece animes, so I don't know like what the quality is on them. I know it's still going. There's now Dragon Ball Super, which I haven't read. I was told to totally avoid GT, which I will. But yeah, I mean, I think we have to look past certain things and give things a chance. I know it's the biggest problem I have when trying to convince people to read manga, especially fellow comic book fans who are used to a specific style of art with comic books. They look at like manga and they think it's like, yeah, it's immature or kiddie, and the style isn't up to par with what they're used to. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there's a reason these styles are chosen for these stories, and they work into it really well. So yeah, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about these two series because I know everybody knows what big fan I am of One Piece, but I also wanted to bring up Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball was one of those things I was avoiding because I always heard everybody talking about Dragon Ball, and I was just like, yeah, it's not for me. That's totally not for me. But as I've gotten deeper into the series, as a comic book fan, I really enjoy both of these because I think both of them would work well for comic book fans. And I've talked about this before in a video where I discuss manga, first time mangas for comic book fans. And they are superheroes. I mean, you got to look past the pirate thing. Uh Luffy is pretty much the superhero who comes into an island and saves the people there who are innocent from whatever bad shit is going on. He even unintentionally helps people who weren't even asking him for help but needed it. And that character behind me is a really good example. That law guy. But yeah, I think these are two great series, and if you're thinking about giving them a chance, please do. Uh, they're also the reason why I do like a 3 volume before I drop it rule now, because early on I was reading a lot of stuff off Shonen Jump, so I didn't realize I wasn't reading the whole first volumes. I'm dumb. Okay, I'm dumb. It's kind of hard to judge on Shonen Jump when you're just reading chapters, like how many chapters are in a first volume. I'm used to comic books. There is no chapters. But yeah, those are my two top series. Now, before you go, do not go. If you are looking for a deal on manga, let me suggest Takara Cafe. Takara Cafe has some really great deals. They got pre-orders. They even have sometimes out of print volumes that you might be looking for. Uh, the site is really good at having like a great selection. I've gotten some new manga off of there. I've pre-ordered a few things. And I have the link down below. Plus, I have a 5% discount code right here that you can use. So please use my affiliate link and that code. Also want to remind everybody, Tuesday nights, on my channel, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Me and the Otaku squad get together for Otaku Tuesday, and we talk about some of the recent news in manga anime, plus we give our top 5 lists, so please check that out. And again, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to my ongoing subscribers. Let's get this channel up to 600, and then from there, keep on going, because, we are making waves. I am so happy, and I'm so happy to have you guys here. So I'm going to go, and I will see you in the next video. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. You got any suggestions? I'm open. I'm open. So if there's anything you think I should try, I will. You guys have a great day. I'll see you. Bye.